Adama was navigating the deep waters of her mid-30s when a tidal wave of adversity crashed over her. For 7 long years, she had shared her life in a modest dwelling with a man she loved, holding onto the shared dream of parenthood, a dream that remained frustratingly out of reach. The countless hopes of having a child had woven themselves tightly into the fabric of their marriage, only to unravel abruptly. One morning, she awoke to a silence heavier than usual. Her husband had vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but a brief, stark note placed on the dining table, the very table where they had shared meals and whispered future plans. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry," it read. And just like that, a void opened where affection and companionship had once resided. He was simply gone. No final embrace, no difficult conversations spoken face to face, only a chilling absence. Adama sat staring at the crumpled note, her eyes tracing the cruel words repeatedly, a desperate, futile wish forming in her heart that they might somehow rearrange themselves, change their meaning. They didn't, and neither did the profound, suffocating solitude that immediately enveloped her world. Humiliation burned, her heart ached with a raw, searing pain, and the overwhelming burden of her evaporating aspirations felt crushing. More than anything else in the world, she had yearned for the gentle weight of motherhood, to nurture and guide a new life. Yet now, she was utterly isolated, her home echoingly childless, legally divorced by abandonment, and adrift in a vast, turbulent sea of unanswered questions. Who was she meant to be now, without the structure of them? Without the potential of a family unit? But Adama possessed a spirit that refused to be permanently submerged beneath waves of sorrow. Though wounded, she wasn't broken beyond repair. Then, one sun-dappled afternoon, while dedicating her time to volunteering at a local haven known as the Ubuntu Children's Sanctuary, she encountered 5 small boys who inadvertently charted an entirely new course for her life. They were siblings, a tight-knit group, all still under the tender age of 10. They wore mismatched, slightly worn clothing that spoke of hardship, but their young eyes, though tinged with apprehension, were bright and brimming with hesitant inquiries about the world. Their parents, she learned, had tragically perished in a devastating fire, leaving them orphaned and, it seemed, unwanted by the wider world. Relatives, perhaps overwhelmed by the sheer number, had turned them away, unwilling or unable to undertake the immense responsibility of raising 5 young lives simultaneously. A social worker, her voice laced with a weary sadness, had described them with brutal honesty as a package deal no one wants. But when Adama looked at them, she perceived something far deeper than just 5 abandoned children with uncertain futures. She recognized a familiar echo in their searching eyes and guarded postures, a quiet, palpable pain, a tremor of trepidation about what tomorrow might bring, and the subtle, heartbreaking resignation that often settles in the hearts of those who have faced repeated rejection. That night, sleep became a distant, unattainable luxury. Their young faces, etched with both vulnerability and a flicker of defiant hope, lingered persistently in her mind's eye. She lay awake, the darkness amplifying her thoughts, reflecting on her own past, the intense, burning yearning for motherhood, how that cherished, seemingly simple dream had been so cruelly and inexplicably snatched from her grasp. And now, here, unexpectedly, was an opportunity presenting itself, not the perfectly curated, comfortably planned existence she had once envisioned, but a genuine, raw, unadulterated kind of love, needing and deserving, knocking insistently at the door of her bruised heart. She didn't possess abundant worldly resources, this was true. Her income was modest, her house small and aging, and there was no partner by her side to share the burdens, logistical or emotional. Yet, she realized, she held within her a heart that was not modest in the slightest. It was overflowing with a vast, untapped capacity for love, aching to be expressed, to find its purpose. And so, in the quiet hours of the night, she made a decision of monumental significance, a choice born not of calculation, but of profound compassion. One by one, She carefully and lovingly welcomed them into the humble confines of her home, opening her door and her heart wider than she ever thought possible. First came Kofi, the eldest, reserved and quiet, his young shoulders already weighted with a fierce, protective instinct towards his younger siblings. Then arrived Kwame, the contemplative thinker, whose intelligent eyes always seemed to absorb every small detail of his surroundings, a silent observer of life. The energetic twins, Jide and Akin, arrived next, inseparable forces of nature, constant sources of mischievous fun, their bright smiles capable of illuminating even the darkest corners of a weary day. And finally, little Ao, the youngest of the brood, barely 5 years old, with cheeks so delightfully soft and rounded that one simply couldn't resist gently pinching them with affection. The initial days, weeks, and months that followed were a whirlwind of beautiful, often overwhelming chaos. The expenses of schooling for 5 growing boys mounted rapidly. Food was sometimes scarce, requiring careful budgeting and clever ingenuity in the kitchen, and sleepless nights became less of an occasional hardship and more of a common reality. There were inevitable tantrums born of fear and adjustment, accidental damage to well-worn furniture from boisterous play, countless scraped knees and bruised elbows requiring comfort and bandages, and frequent, sometimes worrying, visits to the local healing center for childhood ailments. As the years marched on, the tumultuous teenage years struck like powerful storms, attitudes flared, voices escalated in heated disagreements, and doors slammed with the resonant force of thunder echoing through their small home. But amidst the inevitable disorder, something profoundly beautiful and resilient began to blossom, nurtured by patience and unwavering affection. There were unforgettable moments when they would dance in the rain, barefoot and laughing unrestrainedly, their spirits as wild and free as the wind. They sang together on Sunday mornings, the joyous sounds of gospel music reverberating through the modest living room, their voices blending in spontaneous harmony as they shared steaming plates of jollof rice and exchanged stories, big and small, around the table. Adama patiently taught them practical lessons for navigating the world: how to tie a necktie for school or special occasions, how to offer sincere apologies after a quarrel, how to prepare simple, nourishing meals, and perhaps most significantly of all, how to truly love themselves and one another with unwavering devotion. She was not a flawless mother, of course. There were undoubtedly days when she wept silently, hidden away in the small bathroom, feeling completely overwhelmed, uncertain if she possessed the strength to continue. But she never, ever yielded. Every tender embrace given, every gentle reprimand offered with wisdom, every comforting bedtime story read aloud was delivered with the profound, unconditional devotion that only a true, self-sacrificing mother can bestow. Slowly, steadily, the boys began to flourish under her unwavering care and guidance. Kofi, the quiet eldest, blossomed into a driven young man and gained admission to a prestigious academic institution, securing his future with a hard-earned scholarship. Kwame, the thoughtful observer, launched his own innovative digital platform, a creation that quickly garnered significant online attention and praise for its ingenuity. The twins, Jide and Akin, with their innate flair, unveiled a small sartorial venture focused on unique clothing designs, a business that rapidly gained popularity among their peers and beyond. And finally, little Ao, the youngest, revealed a natural musical talent, a captivating voice that astonished everyone who heard it, capable of conveying deep emotion. As the years gracefully unfolded one by one, they matured into independent young men and moved out of the family home, pursuing their own paths. Some even relocated internationally for challenging work opportunities and further specialized education. Yet, no matter how far life led them, no matter how much success they achieved, they consistently returned to her, to Adama's humble abode, which remained their undeniable anchor, a place brimming with cherished memories, shared laughter, and the comforting scent of home. She never sought anything tangible in return for her boundless love and sacrifice. To her, simply witnessing their happiness, their growth, and their success was more than sufficient recompense, the greatest reward imaginable. Time flowed like a river, its passage deceptively tranquil at first, then rushing past with an accelerating current before one could truly grasp its fleeting movement. Adama's hair, once dark, gradually turned a distinguished shade of gray, a silver crown earned through years of unwavering effort. Her hands, once smooth, now bore the indelible marks of decades spent cooking countless meals, meticulously cleaning their home, and tirelessly nurturing her growing family. But her spirit remained indomitable, a flame that burned ever brighter with age. She watched with immense, quiet pride as her boys matured into men who stood tall, not merely in physical stature, but, more importantly, in strength of character and integrity. Kofi became a highly respected engineer, renowned not only for his sharp intellect but also for his composed demeanor and unwavering leadership qualities. Kwame forged a significant name for himself in the competitive technology sector, devising innovative applications that genuinely facilitated community connection and fostered economic prosperity for others. The twins, Jide and Akin, expanded their unique fashion line across continents, their designs adorning a diverse range of individuals, from everyday trendsetters to celebrated personalities and even dignitaries. Ao, the youngest, with his incredibly captivating voice and soulful lyrics, emerged as a rising musical sensation, his music resonating deeply and moving hearts with poignant narratives that spoke universal truths of struggle, hope, and the transformative power of love. They traversed the globe, leaving their mark on the world, yet every major holiday, every significant birthday, every precious family gathering inevitably brought them back to the singular person who had made it all conceivable, the foundation upon which their lives were built, Adama. She never requested anything from them. Not a single gift, not even a simple verbal expression of thanks seemed necessary to her. But deep within the quiet chambers of her heart, she harbored a silent, unspoken aspiration for something beyond the modest, aging house she had inhabited for more than 3 decades. It was now well worn by time, and countless lives lived within its walls. The roof leaked noticeably during heavy downpours, the wooden floorboards groaned audibly underfoot with every step, and the paint on the exterior and interior had long since faded, showing its age. Still, despite the accumulating signs of decay, she never voiced a complaint, accepting her circumstances with quiet grace. On the crisp, sunlit morning of her 60th birthday, she awoke not to silence, but to the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread and rich, dark coffee wafting through the air. Her sons had returned home, all 5 of them, their presence filling the house with the warmth of their love and the joyous sound of their laughter. They engaged in spirited chatter, easily slipping back into the familiar dynamic of brothers, teasing each other affectionately as if they were still the children she had first welcomed. She smiled, a deep, soul-felt smile, observing them from her favorite spot on the old wooden bench just outside the front door. Life had been undeniably arduous, marked by loss and struggle, but this singular moment, witnessing the men she had raised together in her home, was everything she had ever truly desired, a fulfillment that transcended any material lack. Then Kofi, ever the leader, stepped forward, holding something carefully enveloped in soft white fabric. "Mama," he uttered softly, his voice thick with emotion, "we have a gift for you." The others gathered around him, their eyes shining with a mixture of anticipation and profound love. She looked at them, a gentle bewilderment softening her features, a quiet curiosity sparking in her eyes. Gifts were a rarity. She had always gently but firmly instructed them not to squander their hard-earned money on her. But this, she sensed, was no trivial present. Kofi slowly unwrapped the cloth, revealing not a small trinket, but a large, gleaming silver key, affixed to a celebratory ribbon. Adama blinked, her mind struggling to comprehend. "What is this?" she inquired, her voice barely a whisper, laced with disbelief. Kwame smiled, a wide, beautiful smile. "It's yours now," he said simply. Jide and Akin stepped aside in unison, their movement unveiling something parked just beyond the gate, a spacious van. Inside, instead of luggage, were photographs, beautiful, glossy, vibrant images of a brand new house. It was spacious, modern in design, with pristine white walls that seemed to glow, expansive windows inviting in the light, and a lush garden teeming with vibrant, blooming flowers. "We built it together," Ao, the youngest, said softly, kneeling beside her on the worn porch.
"For you, Mama."
"For us. For our family." Tears, hot and unexpected, welled instantly in her eyes, blurring her vision. She was speechless, utterly overcome. Her heart pounded a rapid, joyous rhythm in her chest, as if attempting to escape the confines of her body, yearning to leap towards them. All those years of quiet sacrifice, of giving freely and unconditionally without any expectation of reciprocation, had culminated in this very moment, this tangible symbol of their gratitude and love. I don't know what to say," she finally managed, her voice thick with emotion, trembling with the weight of it all. "You don't have to say anything, Mama," Kofi said gently, reaching out to take her hand. "We just want you to know, we remember everything. Every late night you stayed awake worrying about how you would find the money for school fees. Every single time you cooked with whatever meager ingredients remained so we could eat, even when you might have gone without. Every comforting hug, every necessary scolding, every single bedtime story you read. You gave us everything when no one else in the world would, when everyone else turned us away." They gently assisted her in standing, their hands steadying her, guiding her towards the waiting van. As they slowly departed from the familiar house she had called home for so many transformative years, she cast one last glance back over her shoulder, not with sorrow for what was left behind, but with profound, overwhelming gratitude for the journey that had unfolded within its walls. That house held countless, indelible memories, the echoes of laughter and the quiet presence of tears, the awkwardness of growth and the sharp sting of pain, but above all, an abundance of fierce, unwavering love. The new house was everything Adama never even realized she deserved, a sanctuary built not just with mere bricks and wood, but with the enduring strength of gratitude, the deep foundation of remembrance, and the guiding force of collective purpose. She moved through it slowly, almost reverently, her hands gently touching the smooth, cool walls as if fearing they might vanish beneath her fingers, a dream too beautiful to be real. There was an expansive, modern kitchen, promising countless future meals where she could cook for all of them once more, a spacious, inviting living room where they could comfortably congregate as they had in days past, sharing stories and laughter, and a magnificent garden filled with the vibrant colors and sweet fragrance of roses, her absolute favorite flowers. But the thoughtful surprises did not cease there. Weeks after she had begun to settle into her new life, Kofi sat beside her on the wide porch one evening, the sky above them transforming into a breathtaking canvas of warm orange and soft pink hues as the sun began to set. "Mama," he began, his voice carrying the weight of something significant, "we want to do something truly special. Something more." She looked at him, intrigued, a question in her eyes. "We want to give you something else," Kwame said, emerging from the house carrying a thick, official-looking folder, which he handed to her with great care. "Something that belongs solely to you, Mama." "What is this?" she inquired softly, her heart already full to bursting. "A gift," Jide said, his smile wide. "A promise," Akin added, his voice resonant. Ao, the youngest, smiled warmly, looking at her with infinite affection. "From all of us, to you." She slowly opened the folder, her fingers trembling slightly, and froze. Inside were official, legally binding, and meticulously sealed documents, the papers establishing a trust fund, set up entirely in her name, generously funded by all 5 of them collectively, a testament to their shared success and unified purpose. It was a substantial amount, calculated to be sufficient to ensure she would never again have to fret about a single thing, covering any potential medical care she might need, allowing her to travel if she ever wished to explore the world, even providing capital should she ever decide to embark on a small enterprise of her own. "You did this for me?" she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips, tears clouding her vision once more. They all nodded, a silent, collective affirmation. "We owe you everything, Mama," Kofi affirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "You gave us life when we had none, a home when we were adrift. Now, it's simply our turn to ensure that you live well, that you know the security and peace you deserve." Tears streamed down her cheeks, not tears of sorrow or even mere overwhelming joy, but of a deep, profound, unshakable sense of fulfillment and validation. This, she realized, was not the trajectory her life was meant to take according to her initial plans. She had once envisioned a future built around a husband, children of her own flesh and blood, a family unit conventionally created. Instead, life had dealt her a hand of pain, stark rejection, and a deafening silence. But then had come 5 young boys, desperate and in need, boys who needed her more profoundly than anyone ever had before. And through the selfless act of loving and raising them, she had, in turn, discovered her truest self, her deepest purpose. Months after the milestone celebration of her 60th birthday, something else unfolded, unexpected and almost surreal in its timing. One by one, each of the boys decided to embrace their own journeys towards marriage, yet not in isolation. Instead, they made a collective decision, a plan born of their unique bond and shared history that astonished everyone who heard it. They planned a magnificent, unprecedented wedding celebration. 5 proud grooms, 5 radiant brides, united on one epic day, a grand affirmation not just of their individual loves, but of the extraordinary love and unity forged by the woman who had taught them its true meaning. The wedding became the talk of the entire region, a widely celebrated event. 5 sleek suits, 5 breathtaking brides radiating happiness, music that resonated through the heavens, and a place of honor, a front-row seat reserved solely and exclusively for one person, a dama. Dressed in a regal, flowing blue gown, she sat watching, tears of immense joy and pride glistening in her eyes, her chest swelling with an emotion too vast for words. The master of ceremony, breaking from tradition, did not even commence the celebration by introducing the happy couples. He began, instead, with a heartfelt tribute. "Before we celebrate these 5 remarkable young men, let us first honor the queen who raised them, alone, strong, resilient, and full of incredible grace." The entire crowd, moved by the sentiment and the story they knew, rose spontaneously to its feet, a thunderous wave of applause washing over Adama. And for the first time in her life, Adama heard strangers, people from all walks of life, acclaim her openly as a queen. After the unforgettable wedding, photographs of the joyous event proliferated like wildfire across social media and local news outlets. People, deeply touched by the narrative, penned heartfelt articles detailing her extraordinary story of sacrifice and love. Organizations dedicated to supporting vulnerable children and families reached out, eager to collaborate and learn from her example. A publisher, recognizing the powerful human interest element, offered to transform her life story into a book, preserving her journey for posterity. She smiled at all of it, not out of a desire for renown or recognition, but because her quiet, often unseen sacrifices had finally found a resonant voice, inspiring others. Now, every Sunday, her beautiful new home is filled once again, hosting lively lunches for her sons, their wives, and the growing brood of grandchildren. The once tranquil house is now joyously populated with the delightful sounds of children's laughter, the occasional spill of juice on the floor, and the inevitable scattering of toy cars beneath the dining table. Her grandchildren, a source of endless delight, affectionately call her Mama Adama, a title filled with warmth and respect. Neighbors, knowing her story, refer to her with admiration as the Mother of Kings, recognizing the caliber of the men she raised. And Adama, in the quiet reflections of her heart, she simply calls herself grateful. She did not receive the conventional life she had prayed for all those years ago. she received something far, far grander, a tapestry woven with unexpected threads of hardship and grace. She did not merely adopt 5 boys in need. She raised 5 kings, men of character and influence who would impact the world. Adama's journey stands as a powerful testament that every life, no matter how it begins or what pain it endures, carries profound purpose, even when it feels empty, broken, or irrevocably shattered. She was not chosen by fate in the way she initially expected, yet her courageous decision to embrace love and responsibility when no one else would transformed not only her own existence, but the lives of everyone she touched. Without a husband by her side, without significant wealth, and without a clear, easy path before her, she ventured into uncertainty armed with nothing but a heart overflowing with boundless compassion. And as her story beautifully illustrates, that proved to be more than enough. Her narrative reminds us, with gentle but firm clarity, that a person's inherent worth is not determined by societal labels, conventional achievements, or marital status. Adama was once perceived by the world as childless, perhaps unwanted, potentially forgotten by the man who left her, but in the eyes of 5 young boys, lost and alone, she became everything: a steadfast guide, a fierce protector, an irreplaceable mother, a beacon of hope. Love, her life demonstrates, does not await ideal conditions or perfect circumstances. It flourishes most vibrantly amidst chaos. It grows strongest during challenging days, and it reveals its purest form in the quiet, unseen moments of self-sacrifice. And what we offer freely, generously, without any expectation of return, often comes back to us in the most unforeseen and profoundly beautiful ways imaginable. Family, as Adama unequivocally proved through her actions, is not solely about shared blood or genetic connection. It is fundamentally about who appears when you are in need, who remains steadfastly by your side through thick and thin, and who dedicates their heart, wholly and unconditionally, to your well-being. Her initial pain did not define her ultimate trajectory. Her courageous, loving choices did. And in choosing, again and again, to extend love, she forged a legacy far surpassing anything she could have ever envisioned in her wildest dreams. For sometimes, what the world most desperately needs is simply someone brave enough, someone kind enough, to genuinely care. A woman who, at 35, faced abandonment and the crushing weight of childlessness, who then opened her wounded heart and humble home to 5 unwanted, orphaned boys, nurturing them with relentless effort and profound, unwavering devotion, stood speechless on her 60th birthday as her now successful sons presented her with the keys to a brand new house, a magnificent gift built in her honor as a tangible expression of their deep love and boundless gratitude. But life, in its mysterious and often unpredictable way, was not yet finished scripting miracles for Adama. A year after Adama's 5 adopted sons celebrated their momentous collective wedding on the same day, another extraordinary event unfolded, a cascade of new life. Their 5 wives, adding to the family's joy, all gave birth within the same year, though in different months, each arrival a blessing. And then, adding a unique touch to this season of new beginnings, Kofi's wife, the wife of her eldest son, gave birth to not 1, but 2 beautiful twin girls. In a deeply touching tribute that spoke volumes, Kofi named them Adara and Amara, deliberately choosing names that echoed and honored the woman who had sacrificed everything for him and his 4 younger brothers, enabling them to live lives of purpose and fulfillment. Adama, now 61, her heart overflowing, held each of these 6 precious grandchildren with trembling hands and tear-filled eyes, a profound sense of wonder washing over her. In the span of a single year, Adama, who had once been without children, had welcomed 6 adorable grandchildren into her ever-expanding family, 4 sweet girls and 2 robust boys. The joyous news spread rapidly throughout the community and beyond, once again becoming the widely celebrated talk of the entire region, as everyone marveled at the incredible arc of her journey and how she had, with grace and resilience, transformed profound pain into powerful purpose, deep loneliness into an enduring, vibrant legacy. But destiny, it seemed, was not yet done testing the extraordinary capacity of Adama's heart. One quiet afternoon, while returning from visiting her youngest son Ao at his home, Adama noticed a small, distressed crowd gathered near her thoroughfare, their faces etched with concern. Curious, she instructed her driver to stop the car. As she stepped out, her gaze fell upon something that would forever imprint itself upon her memory, a poignant image that would haunt her thoughts. A young boy, no older than 7, lying unconscious on the ground, still wearing his simple school uniform. His older sister, barely 9 years old herself, stood beside him, her small face streaked with tears, her body trembling. "He collapsed," the girl whispered, her voice a fragile thread of sorrow. "He was crying because he was hungry. There was no food at home." Adama did not hesitate for a single second. Her mother's heart took over. She personally lifted the boy and rushed him in her car to the nearest local medical facility, praying desperately for his recovery. But despite every effort by the medical staff, it was tragically too late. The boy, a casualty of unseen hardship, passed away in the hospital, alone, hungry, and forgotten by the wider world. Adama broke down completely, weeping uncontrollably as if he were her own beloved grandson, as if she had lost a piece of herself, a part of the future she had worked so hard to build for vulnerable children. That night, sleep became an impossibility. Adama lay awake, her heart and mind deeply troubled, the image of the boy's face searing itself behind her eyelids. She cried throughout the long, dark hours because of the tragic, unnecessary death of the young, hungry boy, her sorrow a testament to her boundless compassion. At the first light of dawn, a powerful, clear idea crystallized in her mind. Emerging from the depths of her grief and sleepless night, she would establish a free restaurant directly on her thoroughfare, a place specifically dedicated to feeding underprivileged schoolchildren from Monday to Friday, ensuring no child in her community would go hungry again. Driven by this newfound purpose, she immediately contacted her sons via their family communication platform, sharing the heartbreaking story of what had befallen the little boy and conveying her urgent, determined plan. Her sons were profoundly moved by the tragedy and overwhelmingly overjoyed by their mother's compassionate decision. Without hesitation, they pledged their full support, financially, logistically, and emotionally. Together, they began meticulously planning the construction and operation of the restaurant, pooling their resources and expertise. A few short months later, everything was ready, and the restaurant, a beacon of hope, was officially opened. They named it, fittingly, Adama's Royal Feast, a place where every child would be treated like royalty. They hired skilled chefs and dedicated staff to prepare and serve nourishing meals to the children every day after school. Children from the neighborhood, their faces alight with excitement, flocked to the restaurant, filling the space with joyful laughter and boundless energy, and for once, leaving with warm, full stomachs. The impact was immediate and profound. Many of the children, particularly those who had previously missed school frequently due to debilitating hunger, began attending happily and regularly, their concentration and energy levels visibly improving. One day, all the grateful parents and guardians of the school children gathered together, collecting their meager resources to purchase special gifts as a tangible expression of their profound gratitude to Adama for all she had done, for saving their children from the gnawing pain of hunger. Not long after its opening, the story of Adama's Royal Feast, a testament to selfless kindness, went viral on social media platforms, spreading rapidly far beyond the local community. People everywhere were deeply touched by Adama's extraordinary kindness and generosity. Many began extending support in various forms. Some sent monetary donations, others donated large quantities of food items, and some individuals even volunteered to cover the salaries of the dedicated staff. Several food production facilities, inspired by her initiative, also committed to supplying the restaurant with provisions every single month, ensuring a steady stream of ingredients. Soon, the storeroom of Adama's Royal Feast was filled to overflowing with all varieties of food and essential cooking supplies, a testament to the ripple effect of compassion. Then came Christmas, a time for celebration and giving. Her sons, their wives, and all 6 of her beloved grandchildren returned home together to spend the holidays. They decided to amplify their impact even further, joining Adama in distributing food, clothing, and special gifts to the community with immense joy, their actions mirroring the generosity she had instilled in them. Adama, serving alongside them with a warm, welcoming smile, her heart full, her eyes scanning the joyful crowd, suddenly caught sight of something that made her freeze, her breath catching in her throat. A man struggling quietly at the edge of the crowd, attempting to reach the food distribution point. She wiped her eyes, blinked hard, and looked again, her heart pounding. And then, for her, time stood completely still. It was him, Mensa, the man who had abandoned her 27 long years prior, the husband who had walked away without a word when she couldn't bear him children, the man she hadn't seen since the devastating day he had vanished from her life like a shadow. Her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, she took a hesitant step closer, then another, drawn forward by an invisible force. Finally, she reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and gently tapped him on the shoulder. He turned slowly, his face a mixture of confusion and weary resignation, and what she witnessed next made her cry out involuntarily. Adama cried out, not from fear, but from a sudden, piercing shock, from the sharp, unexpected reopening of a deep wound that had never truly healed, a pain that had been buried but not erased. Standing before her, amidst the festive crowd and the sounds of Christmas joy, was Mensa, the man who had once called her wife, who had kissed her on their wedding day and vowed to love her in sickness and in health, for better or worse. But this was not the man she remembered, the vibrant, proud, robust man of her past. The Mensa she knew had been full of vitality and confidence. The one standing before her now was broken, emaciated, his body worn down by hardship, with eyes that carried the heavy, visible weight of years of regret, sorrow, and unseen suffering. His face had aged dramatically, etched with lines of hardship that made him almost unrecognizable. His clothes were ragged and stained. His hands trembled visibly as he reached for the food. He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time in decades, and something profound in his expression shifted. It was as if he saw not just her face, aged and beautiful, but everything they had lost, the life they were meant to build together, now irrevocably gone. Adama, he whispered, his voice barely audible amidst the cheerful din of the festive crowd, a mere ghost of the voice she remembered. She did not speak, she couldn't. A lifetime of unspoken questions, of pain and wondering, rushed to the surface. All those years ago, she had cried herself to sleep night after night, agonizing over what she had done wrong, questioning if she had been insufficient, wondering if there had been a single moment, even just one fleeting second, when he had looked back after leaving and felt remorse, a pang of regret for shattering her world. Now, here he was, standing in a line for food at a charitable distribution, a man who had once had comfort, love, and a home, who had abandoned it all without a single word of explanation. Overwhelmed, Adama turned abruptly and walked away from him. Her sons, ever attuned to her, immediately noticed the sudden shift in her demeanor. Kofi, the eldest, reached her first, his brow furrowed with concern. "Mama, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice gentle. She shook her head, unable to articulate the raw wave of emotion crashing over her. "Not now," she managed, her voice strained. They respected her silence, though concern filled their eyes, unspoken but deeply felt. The remainder of the day passed in a blur for Adama. Gifts were exchanged with forced smiles, laughter resonated through the air, children danced with uninhibited joy, her grandchildren clung affectionately to her legs, blissfully oblivious to the emotional storm raging within her heart. That night, alone in the quiet sanctuary of her room in the new house, she sat by the window again, the moonlight casting long shadows. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to truly remember, to pull back the protective layers she had built around her heart. She recalled the warmth of his touch, the sound of his laughter that once filled their home, the agonizing, gut-wrenching pain of waking up to an empty house and a note that had summarily ended her marriage and her world as she knew it. And now, after 27 long, silent years, he had returned, not as a husband, not as a man of pride and stature, but as a stranger in dire, visible need, seeking sustenance. The next morning, clarity descended upon Adama, settling her turbulent emotions into quiet determination. She made a firm decision. She summoned Kofi and Kwame, her two eldest sons who were in the country, into her room and explained everything to them: the encounter the day before, the shock, the pain, the questions that still lingered. "I want to know where he's staying," she stated simply, her voice calm but resolute. Her sons exchanged uncertain glances. "Are you sure, Mama?" Kwame asked gently, his voice tinged with apprehension, wary of the potential pain this contact might bring her. She nodded, her resolve unwavering. "Yes, I'm sure. I've spent my whole life since he left wondering why. I deserve to hear it from him, face to face." Kofi departed immediately, driven by his desire to help his mother find peace. By afternoon, he returned, having located Mensa. "He just moved to this area last week, Mama," Kofi reported softly, his voice filled with compassion. "He found work as a gatekeeper, a meager job. He's staying in a tiny room near the bustling market district. He lost everything." Adama stood quietly for a long moment, processing the information, the stark contrast between the man she knew and the man he had become. Then she spoke, her voice steady. "Take me to him." Kofi wanted instinctively to object, to protect her from further potential hurt, but he saw the quiet strength in her eyes, and he didn't. Neither did Kwame. They understood this was something she needed to do for herself, for her own healing. Minutes later, they arrived at the tiny, sparse gatekeeper's room, a stark symbol of Mensa's reduced circumstances. Mensa was seated on a worn, uncomfortable chair, staring fixedly at the floor, his posture conveying utter defeat. He looked up when they entered, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief at seeing Adama standing there, accompanied by two imposing young men he recognized as the boys she had raised. Adama stepped forward, not with anger burning in her eyes or tears of sorrow streaming down her face, but possessing only a quiet, profound strength born of years of resilience. "I want to know," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of decades of unanswered questions. "Why did you leave me? Why did you walk away?" Mensa looked at Adama, truly looked at her, and for the first time in 27 years, he had absolutely nowhere left to hide, no more lies he could tell, no excuses that held any weight, only the raw, painful, and long overdue truth that demanded to be spoken. He rose slowly from the chair, his body weak and visibly trembling, his voice a fragile sound. "I left," he began, the confession pouring out, "because I was ashamed. Deeply, profoundly ashamed." Adama didn't flinch. She simply waited for him to continue. "I couldn't handle it anymore," he confessed, his voice gaining a little strength as the dam of silence broke, the repeated treatments failing, the way people looked at us with pity or whispered about our childlessness, the way you cried silently at night, thinking I couldn't hear you, your muffled sobs tearing at my soul. His eyes filled with tears, glistening in the dim light of the room. "I felt like less of a man, Adama, completely inadequate. I felt like I had failed you, like I couldn't give you the one thing you wanted most, the life we dreamed of together." He swallowed hard, the emotion thick in his throat. "I told myself, in my weakness and shame, that walking away was the only way to set you free, that maybe someone else, someone stronger, someone better, could come into your life and make you happy, someone who could give you the children I couldn't." Adama listened quietly, her face unreadable, absorbing his words, the painful confession that explained the inexplicable. Then she spoke, her voice low, not angry, but heavy with years of pain, with the passage of time, with the weight of everything they had both lost. "You didn't set me free, Mensa," she said, the truth a quiet, devastating blow. "You broke me." I spent years, she continued, her voice steady now, wondering what I had done wrong, agonizing over whether I wasn't enough, whether I was somehow fundamentally flawed. Her gaze met his directly, unwavering. But the truth is, she paused, letting the words land. You just gave up. You gave up on us, you gave up on me, and you gave up on yourself. Kofi and Kwame remained silent, witnesses to this raw, intimate confrontation, observing their mother, the woman who had miraculously transformed 5 unwanted boys into men of purpose and integrity, confront the specter of her past, the source of her deepest wound. Mensa lowered his head, unable to meet her gaze, his shame palpable. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, Adama, he whispered, his voice choked with regret, but I've carried this burden, this regret, every single day of the last 27 years. I watched you from afar sometimes, Adama, saw how you raised those boys, how you poured your life into them, how you became more than a mother, you became a force, a queen in your own right. Adama sighed deeply, the sound carrying the weight of releasing years of held breath. I forgave you a long time ago, Mensa, she said softly, gently, not because you deserved it, not because I had forgotten the pain, but because I needed to. I needed to stop letting your choice, your decision to leave, define my life, my worth, my future. She turned slightly, looking at her sons, her pillars of strength. This man, she stated, her voice clear and firm, is not my husband anymore. Our path together ended that day 27 years ago. But he's still a human being, Mensa. And right now he needs help, real help. Kofi and Kwame nodded, understanding instantly. Without hesitation, driven by the empathy and generosity their mother had painstakingly cultivated within them, they stepped forward and offered Mensa a place to stay. Not out of obligation or a sense of grudging duty, but out of pure, unconditional love, the same transformative love that had built their own lives from the ground up, the same love that had nourished hungry children at Adama's royal feast, the same powerful love that had taken a broken woman and shaped her into a legend, a queen in the eyes of her community. In the weeks that followed that poignant encounter, Adama, with gentle guidance and unwavering support, carefully and patiently helped Mensa begin the arduous process of rebuilding his shattered life. He started working again, taking small, humble jobs at first, then gradually progressing to more meaningful and sustainable employment. A year elapsed, marked by slow, steady progress, and gradually, like a forgotten melody finding its rhythm once more, Mensa's life began to change, to regain a sense of purpose and direction. With the consistent support and encouragement of Adama and her sons, he not only found work but also rediscovered a sense of self-worth. Then, unexpectedly, opportunity knocked, presenting itself not as a fleeting chance, but as a solid possibility. And this time, unlike 27 years ago, he was ready. His small business, which he started with humble beginnings, grew steadily, not simply due to luck or coincidence, but due to the humility he had learned through hardship, the diligent effort he applied every single day, and the second chance he had never in his darkest moments believed he would ever receive. One afternoon, he stood once again at the gate of Adama's home, not as the broken man who had walked away so long ago, but as one forever transformed by the grace and mercy of the woman who had chosen compassion over bitterness. He stepped inside, approached Adama where she sat, and without hesitation, he knelt before her, a gesture of profound humility and gratitude. "Thank you, Ma," he said, his voice thick with raw emotion, tears streaming down his face, "for transforming my life, for showing me mercy." Adama looked at him with gentle eyes that held no trace of anger, no lingering resentment, only a deep, abiding peace. She reached out softly and touched his shoulder, her touch comforting and reassuring. "I didn't do anything for you, Mensa," she said gently, her voice imbued with faith. "But God did. All the glory and honor belong to Him because ultimately, it's not about what we desire in life or how intensely we strive and pursue our own plans. It's about the unexpected, transformative mercy that finds us when we least deserve it, when we are at our lowest point." Mensa lowered his head, absorbing her words, understanding finally. For the first time in decades, he smiled, a genuine smile born not of pride or accomplishment, but because he finally, truly comprehended the kind of profound, unwavering love that Adama had always embodied, a love that does not abandon, a love that feeds the hungry, a love that forgives the unforgivable, a love that raises kings from ashes, and a love that extends mercy to the broken. Love does not require permission from others or a state of personal perfection to manifest. It only needs a willing heart, open and ready. Adama was not granted the conventional life she had dreamed of, the one she had meticulously planned, but she chose, deliberately and repeatedly, to love anyway. She loved 5 unwanted boys. She extended compassion to a dying stranger. She even found it within herself to love and forgive the very man who had left her shattered and alone so many years before. Her story powerfully teaches us that true love is not about timing or conditions or finding the right person. It is fundamentally about showing up when you are needed, about opening your heart even when it is bruised, and about refusing to let past pain dictate your present actions or your future purpose. True strength, her life demonstrates, is discovered not in holding on to anger or resentment, but in the profound act of forgiveness, not solely for others who have wronged you, but for oneself, for allowing oneself to be hurt. Adama forgave Mensa not because he had earned it or deserved it, but because she, Adama, deserved peace. She deserved to be free from the heavy chains of bitterness that had tethered her to a painful past. Clinging to anger and resentment had only kept her bound to the moment of his departure. Her journey clearly demonstrates that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is, in fact, the ultimate manifestation of freedom. It is the conscious moment you choose to stop allowing someone else's hurtful choices to continue defining your present happiness or limiting your future potential. Legacy, as Adama's life so beautifully illustrates, is built not by blood relation or genetic ties, but by conscious choice, selfless sacrifice, and positive impact on the lives of others. Adama did not give birth to kings in the biological sense. She raised them, she shaped them, she instilled in them the values that made them kings of character and influence. She did not merely feed hungry children, she changed the trajectory of countless young lives, giving them hope and possibility. Her legacy was not inscribed in grand palaces or bestowed through official titles, though those would come later, but built brick by brick in meals served, tears gently wiped away, and broken hearts healed through compassion. This story reminds us, in the most profound way, that the greatest, most enduring mark we can leave upon the world is not through the accumulation of wealth or the pursuit of fleeting fame, but through the love we extend unconditionally and the lives we actively choose to uplift along our journey. A year after Adama and her sons had extended a helping hand to rebuild the life of the man who had once abandoned her without a word, the same man who had disappeared like a shadow 27 years prior, precisely at the moment she needed him most, leaving her utterly alone, he now stood again in the entrance of her home, a changed man. He dropped to his knees before her, tears streaming down his face, a profound humility etched in every line. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion, his entire being conveying his transformation. "Mother of Kings, thank you for transforming my life, for showing me mercy." Adama looked at him, not with anger, not with lingering pain, but with a deep, settled peace that emanated from her very core. She gently reached out, her hand resting softly on his shoulder. "I didn't do anything for you, Mensa," she whispered, her voice full of quiet conviction.
"God did.
"All the praise and all the glory belong solely to him." She paused, her gaze lifting slightly, as if looking beyond him. Because life isn't truly about what we desire in our own limited understanding or how intensely we strive and pursue our goals. It's ultimately about mercy. It's about someone, something greater, choosing to reach down and uplift you when you are too broken, too defeated, too lost to stand on your own. That night, as she lay in the comfortable peace of her bed in the new house, Adama closed her eyes and, for the first time in many years, allowed the memories of her life with Mensa to surface, not just the agonizing pain of being abandoned, the cruel emptiness he left behind, but also the love they had once shared, the laughter that echoed in her memory, the shared dreams, the quiet moments that had made her believe completely in him before his sudden, unexplained disappearance. And now, after all the years of waiting, of questioning, of building a new life from the ashes of the old, she finally found a profound, liberating peace regarding his departure and return. That night, as Adama drifted off to sleep, something deep within her heart, something that had been dormant for years, began to awaken. She fell into a dream, not merely a fleeting collection of images, but a vivid, detailed journey through time, a living tapestry of her past. It was like watching a deeply personal film of her life with Mensa, but this time, she wasn't compelled to relive the pain of the ending. Instead, she saw them again, young and vibrant, deeply in love, their hearts full of boundless hope for the future. She dreamed of the day they first met, how his smile had captivated her completely, making her forget everything else around them. She dreamed of the sacrifices he had made for her, sacrifices she had either forgotten or never fully comprehended in her pain, like selling nearly everything he possessed, his meager belongings, simply to ensure her graduation from school, recognizing the value of her education. She dreamed of him quietly skipping meals so that she would have enough to eat, working late into the night at exhausting jobs just to keep her aspirations alive. She dreamed, vividly, of the moment he had given her the greatest gift anyone could possibly bestow, a true act of selfless love, his kidney, 35 years ago, when a sudden, severe illness had nearly claimed her young life. He hadn't hesitated for a second. He had implored the doctors, begged them, to take whatever they needed from him, simply to save her life, to keep her with him. She dreamed of him secretly selling his father's ancestral land, a precious inheritance, not for himself, not for personal comfort, but to pay her mounting local medical facility bills, a sacrifice he had made without telling her until months later, when the crisis had passed. She dreamed of their wedding day again, the pure joy radiating between them, the quiet tears of happiness, the promises whispered beneath the stars on their wedding night, promises made from the heart. And then their honeymoon, two souls intertwined in love, utterly convinced they would face every storm life presented together, their bond unbreakable. One after another, the memories emerged from the depths of her subconscious, raw, real, achingly beautiful moments of connection and love. It was as if her heart, finally healed and at peace, was ready to remember not just the devastating hurt of the ending, but the profound love that had truly preceded it, the foundation upon which their life had been built before it crumbled. And for the first time in many, many years, it was late in the morning, nearly noon, and Adama was still asleep, peacefully resting. Her household staff, accustomed to her early rising, grew deeply worried. They knocked on her door repeatedly, calling out to her with increasing urgency, but there was no response from within. Growing more concerned with each passing minute, they made the decision to contact Adama's two eldest sons, Kofi and Kwame, the family leaders. Though the brothers resided in different towns, both answered instantly, their voices betraying their anxiety. The staff explained the unusual situation, and the worry in their voices mirrored exactly what Kofi and Kwame were feeling, a sudden, sharp fear for their beloved mother's well-being. Without delay, Kofi, ever decisive, gave instructions. He told the gatekeeper and driver to immediately force open her room door to check on her, emphasizing the urgency. As soon as the call concluded, Kofi, unable to wait for news, ordered his own driver to take him directly to the nearest airport so he could catch the first possible flight back to his mother's house, his heart heavy with apprehension. Back at Adama's house, the gatekeeper and driver were preparing to carry out Kofi's instructions, positioning themselves to force the door open when, suddenly, Adama awoke with a sharp jolt, her eyes snapping open. She looked at the clock on her bedside table and gasped loudly in disbelief. It was nearly noon. Still slightly dazed, she whispered aloud, "Heavens, what happened to me? Why did I sleep so late?" When she picked up her phone, Adama was stunned, her eyes widening in surprise, to see more than 50 missed calls and numerous urgent messages from her 5 sons and their wives, a clear indication of their panic. Tears, this time tears of profound love and gratitude for their concern, filled her eyes as she clutched the phone tightly to her chest. Just then, Kofi called again, and this time she answered, her voice perhaps a little shaky. Hearing her voice, alive and safe, brought a wave of immense, palpable relief washing over him. "Mommy," he said, his voice trembling slightly with residual emotion. "What happened? You scared us so much. I almost lost my mind worrying about you." Adama explained, still feeling slightly disoriented, that she had merely been sleeping unusually deeply and had only realized the time when she woke up, shocked at how late it was and at the sheer number of missed calls, a testament to their vigilance. Kofi sighed deeply, a sound of pure relief, before speaking again. "Oh, Mommy, I'm just so thankful to God for your life." Everyone was worried sick, truly terrified. "In fact, I was already on my way to the airport to book a flight to come to you when you finally answered." As she spoke with Kofi, her other 4 sons and their wives were still calling nonstop, desperate to hear from her. When she finally connected with Kwame, he informed her that he was already at the airport, actively trying to secure a flight to be with her, unable to rest until he saw she was okay. After conversing with all of them, reassuring them that she was perfectly fine, and assuaging their fears, Adama sat quietly alone in the peaceful solitude of her room. Her heart was still profoundly stirred by the vividness of her dream and the unusual depth of her sleep. She kept reflecting on the dream, the powerful surge of memories, the undeniable sense of love, the undercurrent of past pain, and the peculiar way she had slept so late, something that had never happened before. It felt too real, too significant, to be dismissed as simply an ordinary dream. "There's something deeper behind this," she whispered to herself, a sense of spiritual significance settling over her. "This wasn't just an ordinary dream. God is speaking. I need to speak with my elder, my spiritual guide." A few hours later, following her intuition, Adama visited the residence of Elder Okoro, a respected spiritual leader in her community. She shared everything with him, the incredibly vivid, detailed dream reliving her past with Mensa, the powerful emotions it had stirred within her, the unexplained deep sleep, and the subsequent panic of her sons. As she spoke, pouring out her heart, the elder listened intently, his wisdom evident in his calm demeanor. When she finished, he prayed for her deeply, passionately, asking for divine understanding and guidance. When he finished praying, he looked at her with a serious, knowing expression. "Mama Adama," he said, his voice gentle but firm with spiritual authority, "you need to call your former husband, Mensa, and all 5 of your sons to come here, to this place. There is something very important, something significant that God wants to reveal, and it concerns all of you, your combined destinies." Adama listened carefully, her heart pounding with anticipation, a sense of destiny unfolding before her. When she returned home, she called her sons immediately, conveying the elder's unexpected request. Without hesitation, Kofi and Kwame, who were already in the country having rushed home to check on her, readily agreed to come to the elder's residence. Akin, Jide, and Ao, who were living abroad, pleaded passionately to be included in the meeting via a video call link, not wanting to miss what they sensed was a divinely orchestrated moment. Adama agreed, understanding their need to be present. Eventually, a date and time were set for the gathering at Elder Okoro's home. The stage was ready, set by divine appointment, and everyone involved could sense it. Something significant, something life-altering, was about to unfold, a truth waiting to be revealed. The next morning, before the scheduled meeting, Adama called Mensa and informed him about the elder's request for him to attend the meeting with her and their sons. As he was about to depart for the elder's residence, Adama gently posed a question that had been weighing on her heart since his return, a question born of curiosity about his missing years. "Mensa," she asked softly, her voice kind, "after we separated, after you left, Why did you never remarry? He paused, the question catching him off guard, bringing back a flood of painful memories. A heavy sigh escaped his lips, carrying the weight of years of unspoken hardship. Then he spoke, his voice quiet and filled with a deep sadness. I did get married, Adama, he said quietly, the admission itself difficult. It was about 5 years after I left you, he continued, his voice thick with the memory of that period. The woman, she gave birth to 2 children shortly after. His eyes dimmed visibly as the pain returned, the memory still sharp. For about 10 years, he confessed, I believed wholeheartedly that they were mine, my own flesh and blood, the children I had longed for. His voice grew softer, laden with past hurt. Then one of the children fell seriously ill and desperately needed a blood transfusion. When I went to the hospital, eager to donate my blood, the doctor told me that my blood type didn't match the child's. He swallowed hard, the painful truth surfacing. That's when I made the decision to do a private DNA test for both children. The results came back. He looked down at his hands, unable to meet her gaze, the shame still evident. I wasn't their biological father. Neither child was mine. Silence, heavy and profound, filled the space between them, the weight of his confession settling in the air. I was preparing to confront my wife with the results, he went on, his voice tinged with bitterness, when she afflicted me with a sickness so severe, so debilitating, that I nearly died. I was hospitalized, gravely ill. Adama listened, her heart sinking with compassion for the suffering he had endured, a consequence of his own choices, but still a terrible burden. When I was hospitalized, Mensa continued, she abandoned me completely, just vanished. She sold all my properties, emptied my bank accounts, took all my important documents, even my certificates that proved my qualifications, and disappeared with the children without a trace. I never saw them again. His voice cracked with emotion, raw grief and loss evident. I nearly lost my life in that hospital bed, Adama. And when I finally recovered, I had absolutely nothing. I was back at zero, completely destitute and alone. He looked back into Adama's compassionate eyes, allowing her to see the full extent of his hardship. I struggled for years, Adama. Every job I tried to find failed. Every venture collapsed. Without my certificates, my identity documents, I couldn't find proper, stable work. I was broken, alone, forgotten by the world. He took a deep, shuddering breath. But today, he said, his voice regaining a flicker of hope, I thank God from the bottom of my heart, with every fiber of my being, because he brought me back to you, because he showed me mercy when I deserved none. And because you, Adama, the woman I once walked away from in my shame and weakness, became the unexpected, miraculous reason I found hope again, the reason I found my way back. I'm so incredibly grateful to God, he whispered, tears streaming down his face, for showing me mercy and for reconnecting me to you, the one person who embodies true love. Adama listened quietly, her heart full of an immense, overwhelming compassion for the man who had once caused her so much pain, but who had clearly suffered greatly himself. She looked at Mensa, her gaze gentle, and said softly, with profound grace, It's okay, Mensa. It's all in the past. I'm just glad you're alive, that you found your way back. All thanks and glory belong to God Almighty. He truly deserves all the praise for bringing you through. 3 days later, Kofi and Kwame arrived as planned for the momentous meeting with the elder, having traveled back to their mother's side. A few hours after their arrival, Adama, accompanied by her 2 eldest sons and Mensa, got into the car and made their way together to Elder Okoro's residence, a place of spiritual insight and guidance. The time had come. Whatever truth God wanted to reveal, whatever part of his divine plan was about to be unveiled, they were ready to hear it together, as a unit brought together by extraordinary circumstances. As the meeting began in the elder's humble, peaceful home, Adama's other 3 sons, Akin, Jide, and Ao, joined the gathering via Zoom from their homes abroad, their faces appearing on a screen, their presence felt across continents. The room, Both the physical space where Adama, Mensa, Kofi, and Kwame sat, and the virtual space connecting them to their brothers, was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation and spiritual energy. The elder looked at Adama and Mensa with deep reverence, his eyes holding ancient wisdom and profound understanding. "Madam Adama and Mr. Mensa," he began, his voice calm but resonant. "Everything that happened between you, everything that led to your separation for so many years, was not by chance, not a random act of fate." He paused, letting his words sink in. It was all according to God's precise will. It was an intricate part of His divine, overarching plan for your lives. He continued gently, addressing them both. "Ma'am, sir, your ultimate purpose on this earth, your assignment from the Almighty, was never primarily about having children of your own blood, of your own flesh and bone. Your true, divine assignment, your calling, was to raise these 5 specific boys, these children who were orphaned and unwanted by others, to nurture them, to guide them, to transform them into the remarkable men they are today. That was your collective calling, though only one of you was initially ready to embrace it." He took a steadying breath before revealing the truth that would shake them both to their core, illuminating the painful mystery of the past. The precise reason God had to separate you for 27 long years, the elder went on, his voice steady and clear, was because of something Mensa said one night, a careless, definitive statement spoken the night before he vanished from your life. Adama listened in stunned silence, her eyes wide with disbelief and dawning comprehension. "You had suggested adoption that night, Adama," the elder explained gently, his words unlocking a forgotten, painful memory. "You remember, after 7 years of marriage without conceiving, you, with your loving heart, bravely brought up the idea of adopting a boy and a girl, opening your home to children in need." Mensa's eyes widened in sudden, painful recognition. The memory, long buried, resurfaced with brutal clarity. And Mr. Mensa responded strongly, unequivocally. The elder continued, his voice softening with compassion for the man's past ignorance. He said, "God forbid. I will never raise someone else's children. Over my dead body will I welcome another man's child into my home. I want my own flesh and blood, my own biological children, or none at all." A heavy, sorrowful silence fell over the room, both physical and virtual, as the weight of that single, fateful statement settled upon them all. "That very statement," the elder said, his voice filled with spiritual authority, "was why God had to separate you. Because He knew, in His infinite wisdom, that if you had stayed together, Adama, bound by your love and your marriage vows, you would never have been able to fulfill your true purpose, your divine assignment. You would have tried to honor your husband's words, his wishes, and those 5 boys, the ones God specifically intended for you to raise, would have remained forgotten, lost, without hope." Tears streamed down Adama's face, tears of revelation, and a release of decades of unspoken pain. Mensa dropped his head into his hands, overwhelmed with regret and the devastating realization of the cost of his careless words. Everything, the pain, the profound loneliness Adama had endured, the struggles Mensa himself had faced, the long, painful separation, it wasn't random, it wasn't a cruel twist of fate. It was, in a way they could never have understood at the time, preparation for destiny, a necessary path leading to purpose, clearing the way for kings to rise from obscurity. The elder continued, his voice steady and full of undeniable revelation, guiding them through the divine logic of their lives. When God saw that Mensa's spoken words, his rigid stance, was becoming a stumbling block to the incredible purpose He had specifically designed for you, Adama, he explained, He had to separate him from you, not out of punishment for Mensa, but out of divine protection for your destiny. Protection of the assignment He had given you, protection of the lives of those 5 boys. He looked at both of them, his gaze filled with deep compassion and understanding. God respected Mensa's choice, the elder said, acknowledging the painful truth of free will, and allowed him to walk through life as he wished, bound by the consequences of his own words. But all the while He was actively preparing you, Adama, giving you the space, the necessary strength, and the precise opportunity to raise those 5 boys, to become the mother they so desperately needed. He paused, allowing the profound truth to resonate before delivering the final, unifying revelation. "Now," the elder said, his tone softening with grace, "God has brought you both back together, orchestrated this reunion, because His will has been fulfilled. The goal was accomplished. Those 5 children who were once lost, forgotten by the world, are now thriving, impactful men because of you, Adama, because you said yes to God's call." His tone grew warmer, filled with the certainty of divine intention. "And now, in God's perfect timing, it is time for you two to continue the journey, the life you began together so many years ago, a journey that was simply paused for a higher purpose." A sacred, awe-filled silence filled the room, palpable even across the virtual connection. "You were meant to be together, Adama and Mensa," the elder stated simply, a foundational truth revealed. "That is why neither of you truly remarried in a lasting, fulfilling way. That is why no one else could ever truly take the place of the other in your hearts, despite the years and the distance." The elder then opened his sacred text, his fingers finding the familiar passage, and read aloud from the book of Isaiah, verses 8 and 9. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Adama and Mensa sat in quiet awe, tears streaming down their faces, not from pain anymore, but from profound understanding, from grace, from the overwhelming realization of God's perfect, intricate plan. There was no room for blame, no space for shame in this moment of divine clarity, only understanding, only grace, only the undeniable presence of a God who has the power to transform pain into purpose, who turns broken paths into highways of hope and destiny, and who, in His perfect, magnificent timing, brings home what was lost, reunites what was separated for a reason only He initially knew. Mensa, the elder continued, gently addressing him directly, had been ignorant, blinded by his own desires and lack of spiritual understanding. "He didn't understand his true purpose, Mr. Mensa," the man of God spoke with deep wisdom and compassion. "He didn't grasp why God had created him, what his real assignment was meant to be." The elder's voice grew serious, emphasizing the gravity of his next point. If he had known, if he had understood God's perspective and plan, he never would have made that one fateful statement that ultimately led to 27 years of profound pain, relentless struggle, and a miserable, broken life. The man of God spoke with a conviction born of spiritual insight. "Sometimes," he said, his gaze sweeping over everyone present, physical and virtual, "we don't realize the immense power contained within our words. One careless word spoken in a moment of selfishness or ignorance can destroy lives. One wrong, definitive statement, spoken in opposition to God's subtle prompting, can alter destinies, not just our own, but the destinies of others connected to us." He looked straight at Mensa, his eyes holding both compassion and correction. "We must be extraordinarily careful with what we say, especially when it comes to God's plans, when we speak in opposition to His will or His promptings. Because once spoken, those words, imbued with a spiritual force, can block blessings, delay purpose, and bring years, even decades, of unnecessary suffering and wandering." Silence, heavy with the weight of this profound truth, filled the room as everyone present absorbed the powerful, life-altering reminder. A deep, resonant echo settled in their hearts. Be mindful of the words you speak, for a single word spoken can open doors of blessing or shut them definitively for a lifetime. Adama, her 4 sons, 2 present, 3 virtual, and Mensa were all overcome with emotion, the raw truth of the revelation washing over them. Tears flowed freely down their faces, not from the sharp sting of pain anymore, but from the deep, profound relief of understanding, of revelation, of seeing God's hand in their story. After a long moment of silence, broken only by soft sobs and the occasional clearing of a throat, Adama finally spoke, her voice quiet but filled with awe, the pieces of her life finally fitting together in a way she had never been able to see before. "That's why," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of the realization, "I could never, ever stop using Mensa as my surname. Even when he was gone, vanished from my life, even when society might have expected me to revert to my maiden name, I couldn't let it go. It felt important somehow." She looked at her sons, the 5 strong, purposeful men she had raised against all odds, the kings who now surrounded her with love and support. "And all my children," she continued, her voice filled with wonder, "they all carry the same name, Mensa. Even when it didn't make logical sense to the world, even when it tied me to a painful past, God was still writing his story through us, a story of future reunion and purpose." A deep hush fell over the room as the significance of this small, seemingly insignificant detail resonated with everyone. Then she added softly, almost to herself, a statement of humble faith, "God truly, truly works in mysterious ways, ways far beyond our understanding." After that incredibly powerful moment of revelation and shared understanding, the elder stepped forward, not just as a spiritual leader, but as a bridge builder, acting with prayer, with love, and with divine purpose guiding his actions. He officially reconciled the family that had been painfully separated for over 27 years by a careless word and a higher plan. A new chapter, filled with hope and possibility, had undeniably begun, not just for Adama and Mensa as individuals, but for the entire family unit that God had always intended to reunite, to flourish together. A few short months later, Adama and Mensa remarried, not merely as husband and wife rekindling an old flame, but as partners reborn through grace, their bond forged anew in the crucible of separation and understanding. Their 5 sons and their families gathered joyfully to celebrate this remarkable union, dancing, laughing, and honoring the love that had been restored, a testament to forgiveness and God's timing. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a profound reunion of destiny, a second chance granted by grace. From that moment forward, the family, now whole in a way they hadn't been before, began experiencing massive, undeniable breakthroughs in every area of their lives, like never before. Doors of favor, previously unseen, swung wide open before them. Opportunities, both personal and professional, poured in from unexpected sources. Blessings overflowed, a tangible sign of God's favor and the fulfillment of purpose. Adama and Mensa traveled together, worked together, and served together, their shared journey touching lives wherever they went. They continued to nourish the hungry through Adama's royal feast, comforted the lonely with their presence, supported orphans with their resources, and stood in solidarity with widows, continuing the legacy of selfless love and service that had always defined Adama and now defined them both. When Adama turned 63, her life's extraordinary work, her unwavering dedication to uplifting others, captured the attention of the entire nation. In recognition of the countless lives she had rescued from poverty and despair, her tireless efforts were acknowledged at the highest level. She was appointed by the federal government as the Minister of Humanitarian and Women's Affairs, a moment of immense honor, a position granted not for political power, but for validated purpose. A woman once shattered by life's hardships, abandoned and alone, was now leading at the highest level, still serving with the same compassionate heart that had once simply opened its door to 5 unwanted boys, transforming their lives and, inadvertently, changing a nation's perspective. And as the years gracefully passed, Adama, Mensa, and their growing family lived together in profound happiness, vibrant health, and beautiful harmony. Surrounded by the joyful presence of grandchildren, cherished deeply by many, and inspiring countless others with their extraordinary story. Your pain is not your ultimate destination. It is often, surprisingly, the very foundation upon which your greatest purpose will be built. Adama was once broken, abandoned, and considered childless by the world. But from that deep well of pain emerged an incredible legacy, 5 boys raised into influential kings, countless lives transformed through her compassion and generosity, and a nation inspired by her unwavering spirit. Your deepest wounds, this story shows us, can become your highest calling, the source of your most impactful contribution to the world. The words you utter, whether spoken carelessly or with intention, possess immense power. They can build up lives or tragically demolish destinies. Mensa's single careless statement, spoken in ignorance, cost him 27 years of joy, peace, and family connection. Be profoundly mindful of what you articulate, especially when it concerns your future, your relationships, and potentially the plans of God, because words shape worlds. God's plans, Adama's story confirms, transcend our limited human comprehension, operating on a higher level, but they are invariably benevolent and purposeful, even when they involve seasons of pain and separation. What appeared to Adama to be devastating abandonment was, in fact, divine preparation for a greater work. What felt like brutal rejection was divine redirection toward a destiny far grander than she could have ever imagined. Trust God, the story implores us, even, and perhaps especially, when you do not fully grasp the path He has laid out before you. True kindness, extended without agenda, never goes unnoticed by the universe, by heaven itself. The world, in its busyness, may not always perceive it in the moment, but heaven invariably records and rewards it. Adama spent years quietly serving others, raising 5 unwanted boys with fierce love, nourishing hungry children with unwavering compassion, forgiving a broken man who had caused her deep pain, and giving freely of herself without expecting anything in return, without seeking applause. She did not do it for recognition or fame. She did not serve others for accolades or titles. She gave because her heart was simply full of love, aching to be expressed. And yet, God honored her publicly, not merely with material riches alone, though those came through her son's success, but with influence, not with fleeting fame, but with enduring favor, not just with titles, but with a purpose far grander and more impactful than she could have ever conceived in her most hopeful moments. Adama's life teaches us a powerful, timeless lesson that when you choose to live your life intentionally, generously, and sacrificially, pouring yourself into uplifting others, the world, in time, will inevitably rise to meet you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through your selfless acts of love and service. Mercy transforms more lives, heals more hearts, and rebuilds more futures than judgment or bitterness ever could. Adama forgave, she loved, and she restored, choosing compassion instead of clinging to the justified bitterness that could have consumed her. Her act of mercy did not merely heal Mensa's brokenness, it transformed generations, bringing peace and wholeness to an entire family. Legacy is not about shared blood. It is about impact. Adama did not give birth to kings. She raised them. She nourished the hungry. She uplifted the poor, and she served the forgotten with unwavering devotion. That is the truest, most enduring kind of legacy, one built on the solid foundation of unconditional love and selfless service to others.